chicken eating the rock. He seems to lack the basic intelligence required for pretty much everything.
Moana 2 definitely has to happen soon, right? There are just so many mysteries and unanswered questions we want to see solved. We can't imagine Disney not making a sequel to this fantastic story, but what would that movie ultimately look like? Moana introduced us to a whole new world that we fell in love with almost instantly and want to see more of. But for a sequel to work, we need answers to some of our burning questions. Curious to see which dangling plot threads Moana 2 needs to address? Just keep watching the video to find out.
Moana. For my boat!
Moana ended with our heroine setting off into parts unknown with a promise to discover brand new islands, and a sequel would have to answer the big question of what's out there. Any story Moana 2 would tell has to see Moana and her tribe exploring new islands and encountering new people, or else the ending of the first movie wouldn't be as effective. The world Moana was able to create in such a short amount of time was really interesting, and we hope a sequel continues to expand and build in exciting new directions. Congrats, Moana! You became the new chief at the end of the first movie, but as we all know, being in charge is never easy. Anyway, the first movie showed us just how strong and capable Moana was on her own, but what happens now that she's in charge of her people's well-being? We imagine Moana is a kind and fair leader, but her headstrong tendencies might clash with the rest of her tribe's tradition and culture. But we're not too worried. Her people were willing to adapt to new changes in the first movie, so we would bet that they would listen to what Moana has to say.
We were voyagers. We can voyage again!
Moana was so successful thanks to the beautiful animation and fun story, but a lot of props have to be given to the cast for crafting characters with such wonderful personalities. Any sequel with these characters needs to bring back the original cast, or it just wouldn't be the same. Could you imagine anyone else besides Auli'i Cravalho as Moana, or Dwayne Johnson as Maui?
The gods have given me a man!
No, without those two, then any sequel just wouldn't work. Plus, Alan Tudyk did career best work as Heihei, so he would definitely need to come back too, right? Speaking of Dwayne Johnson, his character Maui was a highlight from the first film. Admit it, you're humming "You're Welcome" right now, aren't you? But his character arc seems to have wrapped up perfectly after he helped return the heart of Te Fiti. So what will the shape-changing demigod do now? We mean, he has been trapped on an island for like 1,000 years doing nothing but counting his days and carving statues of himself. Do you think he'll be surprised with how much the world has changed now that he's free to roam around? What new adventures could he get into? We need to know. The early scenes of the first film showed us just how curious Moana was ever since she was younger. As a child, she was an adventurous cutie pie who wasn't afraid to explore the ocean. But something funny happened. The ocean seemed to choose Moana from a young age to be the one to return the heart. But why is that? Is it because the ocean saw the person Moana would become? Or could there be a deeper, more mystical reason that could be explored in the sequel? Her connection with the water was a vital part of the first movie, and we hope their wet connection gets more focus in the next movie. When Moana's grandma passed away, it was a devastating blow to Moana, but just because her body was gone doesn't mean her spirit was gone too. We know that Moana's grandma got to become the spiritual stingray she always wanted to be and arrived to give Moana key advice near the end of the film. But could we see her grandmother return again as Moana's spirit guide in the sequel? We hope so. It would serve as a nice reminder of how important the character is overall to Moana's personal growth, don't you think? We were all shocked when the flaming hot Te Kā was revealed to just be Te Fiti without her heart, but it left the movie without a true central villain for Moana and Maui to face. Because the sequel would probably not want to follow the same story beats as the first movie, we expect there to be a big bad that will cause trouble for Moana and Maui as they continue on their adventure. Could it be another demigod like Maui? Or maybe it's a hostile group of islanders who don't want Moana's outside influence. Either way, we're super excited.
What have we here? It's a sparkly, shiny
Even though he said he was a drab little crab once, we all saw just how large and shiny Tamatoa grew to be. Last we saw him, he was tricked by Moana because his eyesight was a little poor and our heroes escaped with Maui's hook. But is the extravagant monster now out for revenge? We'd like to see the character return in the sequel, just this time we'd advised he gets a pair of glasses. You know, just so he doesn't mix up important stone hearts with green barnacles again. One concept that was introduced in Moana that wasn't explored to its full potential was Lalatai, the realm of monsters. That sounds like a pretty big deal. The next movie could easily make its whole plot revolve around this. Maybe the monsters that were previously dormant have now woken up thanks to Maui and Moana's meddling, and they threaten to overtake our world. Overall, it's just a place we want to know more about. A big part of Moana's narrative was discovering secrets about the past.
Do you really think our ancestors stayed within the reef?
After living her life on her island without ever leaving, Moana was shocked to discover that her people were descended from voyagers who would go out and explore new, exciting places rather than stay put. We got brief snippets of her ancestors throughout Moana, but a sequel should totally dive into Moana's people history even more so. We think flashbacks could work well, or perhaps Moana has to contact the spirits of her ancestors for answers to extremely difficult questions. Either way, we're down for it. After we met Maui on his secluded island, we all got a pretty clear picture of what type of demigod he was. Although a great warrior, Maui was extremely arrogant and cocky about his abilities. He thought he was the greatest thing on the face of the earth, but how did he get that way? Was Maui always as much in love with himself, or did he slowly get that way over time? That's why a Moana sequel should dig into Maui's background to find out what events made him into the person we know today. There's an unspoken rule in most Disney films. Whoever the protagonist is, you can bet they're going to have a cute animal sidekick. But Moana totally surprised us by introducing Pua, the adorable pig who looked to be best friends with Moana, but then left him on the island when she set sail, taking Heihei with her instead. Not that we don't love Heihei, but we're really hoping Pua gets to set sail with Moana on her next adventure. The pig deserves the spotlight. The heart of Te Fiti was the key to everything in Moana. It was the object our heroes had to return to stop darkness from spreading everywhere and to save Moana's island from rotting away. But we never got a full explanation of the heart's full powers. Why does removing it cause such destruction across the land? And why does it take so long for the effects to truly be felt? Maui stole the heart years and years ago, but Moana's island wasn't really affected until much later. A sequel might move on from Te Fiti and her heart, but the mystical properties of that special stone is still something we want more information on. One of the coolest things about Maui are his tattoos. Each depicts some cool event in Maui's life, but they also hold great significance to him. He told us how he got a few of them, but he has so many all over his body that were left unexplained. A sequel to Moana should get into more of Maui's history and his previous adventures. Plus, we're so eager to learn more about his little friend Maui has tattooed on himself that acts as his conscience and his guide. He's a character that deserves more fleshing out. Even though it never spoke, the ocean was a major character in the first movie. It helped guide Moana wherever she needed to go and was watching over her from a very young age. But the ocean is just one element. If the ocean has a mind of its own, does that mean that there are other elemental spirits that have just as much personality? Could a sequel see air, earth, or fire act in the same way that the ocean does? And would it be as kind and helpful as the ocean, or would it act differently? To be honest, we're not sure how safe following a fire spirit would be. We learned in Moana that Maui was born to human parents, but they threw him out to sea as an infant because they didn't want him.
They took one look and decided they did not want me.
He was saved by the gods and was raised to become the mighty warrior we now know him as. But why did his parents cast him aside in the first place? A great plotline for Maui in Moana 2 could see him learning more about his human past and his ancestors. Sure, it's been centuries, but we believe the writers could come up with a clever way to have Maui explore more about where he came from. Moana and her father, Chief Tui, butted heads a lot in the first movie. While Moana wanted to go out and explore the world, Chief Tui was adamant about staying put and never leaving. It forced Moana to venture off on her own. Now that her people are full-on voyagers, how has her dad's way of thinking changed? Is he still hesitant about the level of exploring their people do? Or has he completely changed his mind? We can't wait to see more interactions between Moana and her father now that the two of them are entering a completely new future together. Is it just us, or did the coconut pirates, known as the Kakamora, deserve more screen time?
Kinda cute.
These feisty little coconut demons appeared in the middle of the first Moana movie in their pirate ship to steal the heart away from our heroes. Of course, Moana and Maui were triumphant, but it still made us super curious about these evil pirates. Where do they come from? Do any of them talk like humans? What do they do in their spare time when they're not pirating the high seas? Any Moana sequel needs to include these guys again, just so we could find out more about them. We know that before he was banished, Maui loved humans and wanted to give them all sorts of lavish gifts and new things. But as humans became accustomed to his gifts, Maui felt he had to go bigger, which led him to stealing the heart of Te Fiti in the first place. He knew that the heart had the ability to create life, but we're curious about what Maui expected humans to do with such a gift. It's such a minor thing, but answering that question in the sequel would give us valuable insight in Maui's character. Now here's a crazy theory. Is Heihei actually a genius? The first movie showed the bug-eyed chicken as a creature with less than stellar intelligence, and yet the chicken always managed to do the right thing when the time called for it. Was it all just luck? Or is there more to Heihei than meets the eye? How crazy would it be for Moana 2 to reveal Heihei is actually a smart spirit just hiding in the body of a dumb chicken? Okay, we're not sure if this one's true or not, but you can trust we'll be keeping a close eye on Heihei during the sequel. What do you guys think should happen in Moana 2? Let us know in the comments your wildest Moana 2 theories, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more awesome content from The Things. Thanks for watching!